All right, here we are back live. I have with me Sebastian Carrick. He is a regional sales manager at Equitable Life of Canada. Today, I guess every time we have him on, we talk about different ways and just different things that we know, we learn, we teach to others in regards to how we can use insurance to complement our lives. Today, we're going to talk about how it can complement your investment journey as well. Sebastian, welcome back.
Peter, thanks for having me back.
All right. Well, we can kind of go in a number of directions. I guess if we frame this in terms of what value life insurance can add to an investment journey for someone, where do you start?
Yeah. It's like I always think of like when we're talking about participating whole life. Anyhow, I always think of that as like your tried and true, your safety net, your foundation when it comes to the investment component side of things.
And I would say, and so let's break that down. So it's a tried and true, it's a safety net. What is that? What do you mean by that? Like if someone who's never heard of participating, dividend paying whole life, what does that mean to them?
Yeah.
It's safe.
Well,
So
there's two different there's a few different permanent products on our shelves. So you've got UL and you've got participating whole life, and you've got non-participating as well out there in the market. But you can't really participate in that. So meaning you can't invest in your insurance like you can with a UL or a participating whole life, right? Or a non-par that allows you to make deposits into it. So when you're looking at that in a UL, you've got choices when it comes to all the fund choices, and that could be as aggressive as you want or as conservative as you want. Whereas in whole life, that investment component is taken care of by the insurance company. And what I've seen is most insurance companies, all insurance companies, are pretty conservative where they're investing and how they build those products for a conservative like return. And I kind of liken it to like a bond portfolio. So we often see that because, investing in the markets or investing in your insurance, where does par fit? And in most cases, it's that bond element that I see.
right, and so to tie that back to the safety piece on top of it is, so you've gone to this unilateral contract with the insurance company. You put in the dollar. Insurance company has to guarantee that payout. So in order to guarantee that, I mean that in itself would be a margin of cover your margin of error, right? You're not going to lose any money. You have a death benefit in which it has to get to over
Right.
time by age 100. So to reduce the risk, the insurance company is growing that cash every single day. And based on how we build them, we're going to get dividends. We're going to get dividends as cash, but we're going to take it as a addition. We're going to add on to the death benefit, right?
That's
And
right.
that's a way of growing it, growing your portfolio tax free, which means your cash has to grow at a faster rate the next year. And as you keep growing that death benefit, it has to grow at a faster rate. So it's your curve starts going like this, and you're growing. So give me the word. Talk about taxes in regards to this, because a lot of people will go, okay, well, one is rate of return, which is one thing. The other one is, what about taxes and all the other fees and all that are required as part of any investment.
Yeah. So and all insurance companies do this. There is an investment tax that's built in to these
Mhm.
products, which is taken off through the back end, so you don't see what that number is. I think in UL they do disclose what that is, but in PAR, it's something that's paid on a regular basis, that investment tax. So you've got this advantage of having that sheltered in insurance policy, which grows tax deferred until you decide to do something with it, whether it's withdrawal or take a policy loan or a third party loan. Um, so
And
yeah,
the latter of those two, the policy loan or the third party, for sure with the third party, it's a when you talk about tax deferred, you're not going to pay tax on something that you're borrowing
no,
from, right? Um,
not
if you
currently. on the
Right.
current
Well,
legislation. Yeah,
it's one of the few things where you're not going to see tax at the end of the day, right? Um, and even policy loan, you could see tax over time, but if you do something like, I practice infinite banking, it's paying yourself back. So even if you do get there is tax if you've gone beyond what you borrowed, beyond what you've actually put into the policy, you can incur tax. But if you pay it back, you're going to dollar for dollar tax credit. So you're going to end up flush on tax. So ultimately, it's your behavior that controls the tax that
that's right.
is impacted there. Um, we talked about this before. We started here. Warren Buffett. What does he say? One of his, I guess, his number one rule. Would you say?
Yeah, never lose money.
And rule number two is don't forget rule number one. You're putting your money into something that is never going to lose, right? Especially most importantly, if you treat it the way your habits impact the outcomes more so than anything else, right? The insurance company are going to, they're going to live up to those guarantees, but your behavior is the most important part of it. But if you treat it right, you're not going to lose money on this thing, and it's going to keep going. Every dollar you put in, you're going to get more back than what you ever put into it. Based on the way that I work with my clients, that's definitely a big thing. I'm sure everybody's got different processes how they do things, but yeah. And the next part beyond that is like, well, someone say, well, what happens if they fail? But how many times have we seen insurance? There's lots of other levels of margin of safety that are built into it, like Assurus. Of course, we talked about that in a previous episode as well. That protects the policy owners, right? And so the failure of a life insurance company has virtually not had required to use Assurus over time. So to me, it's yeah. There's very little. I don't know if there's another asset you can see out there that has the same kind of guarantees that you're going to see in this.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing too is, like, of course there has to be a need for insurance. You
For
can't
sure.
just go and buy this product and get it underwritten and there's no need for insurance. And the interesting offset on that I often see is those who need it most probably don't see the need for it. But those who don't need it, they often decide to want to own it, which is, it's so interesting, you know?
Yeah, there's definitely. I guess it's just getting an understanding of where people are, what their situation is, where they're going, and how this can add. Like you said before, it's really how they complement whatever they're doing financially, right?
Yeah.
In their journey. Yeah. So of course, there's the need for insurance. So that's on top of just like we were kind of talking about it in terms of an investment, which technically it's not really an investment, but it is a tier one asset. Um, you know, you add insurance on top of it. Now you've got this guaranteed growth every single day contractually. And by the way, if something happens along the way, you've got this massive windfall that's just going to come in and take care of however you want it deployed out, right? It's going to come tax free to the family. It's going to maybe keep your business in place. Maybe it's going to keep real estate in place, whatever that is. And that's something you have to obviously work with your team, not just your advisor, but your lawyer, accountant, all those pieces to make sure that, you know, that can happen, right? It can keep things going.
Yeah, and you're right about the guaranteed side. So there's components of it that are guaranteed, and like guaranteed cash values that have a ledger that you'll see right off the bat. Once the insurance companies put that offer at a table, it's spelled out. But then there's also the non-guaranteed side, which is depending on, what the dividend performance is. It could be greater or it could be less. Well, it can't be less than the guaranteed, but it could be plus or minus what the projections are.
Okay, let's use an example though. I'm going to test you on this. So Equitable has been around since 1920. They've been paying a dividend since 1936. How many years have they had a miss?
None. We've
Okay.
always paid a dividend.
Canada Life, I think, has been around since 1847. They paid a dividend every year since
I think they have
1848.
too. Yeah, I think
So
they have as well.
there's track record of all these companies where we say you talk about the non-guaranteed side, but in reality, there's going to be a dividend just based on track record, right? I mean, they're not going to say it up front on it, but
Yeah, they can't. Yeah, they can't say it up front. Well, they can't guarantee it.
right.
There could be some reason, but I look at it this way: like all most of the companies in Canada have paid a dividend every year. They might have missed maybe 1 year. I think I'm thinking back to the Spanish flu epidemic of 1917. I think there was one or two companies that might not have paid a dividend. But look, we just went past SARS, and it impacted the global community in such a massive way, and the company still continued to pay a dividend to their par holders.
COVID, right? So
Yeah,
you've seen multiple recessions. They continue to pay out. So it's one of those things, and it's truly comes down to not that the product run itself, but if you actually treat it in the right way, it can have massive impact to you to reduce your tax exposure if you use it right, and then as well, you use those dividends right, it'll compound your wealth too in a
yeah,
tax. You say tax deferred. I can say if you use it right, you're not going to have to pay tax on it.
yeah. Well, you're right in regards to the tax-free treatment of it. If it's a death benefit, it pays out tax-free for sure.
Right.
I'm just saying that depending on if the client were to do something, like say a withdrawal years down the road, there could
Right.
be a tax
For
implication
sure. For
or a
sure.
policy loan. So that's all I'm just kind of qualifying.
Yeah.
But you're
So
right,
that's
Peter. Like
it,
if you're using a professional advisor and the advisor knows what they're doing, and you want to have access to capital from your par or your policy, you speak to your advisor. They're going to be able to tell you, just like you advise so many of your clients the right time, when to and when not to, and how to take it out as well.
right. And that's where, I say that kind of like very bluntly, but it depends on your life circumstance, of course, as to
Yeah,
what is needed at that time. But more certainly, if you have the opportunity, even if something happens in the family, you need money fast. It's a source of
yeah,
liquidity, and you can use it in a way which you don't stop compounding your wealth if you use it right. It's going to continue to grow. You can do something like a policy loan or collateralize that at a bank and make sure that you've covered off any of those, button up any of those issues.
yeah. And this one doesn't get as much attention, but you're stated it 100% with the fact that you're able to get access to capital, your capital, and still the effect of the policy continuing to grow is not there. Like you're not removing cash out of your policy
No,
if you're doing it the right way. Absolutely.
and I think of it as your dollar has now it has two jobs, right? It's growing in two different things. It can be growing in your investment if you borrow from your policy in the right
Yeah.
way. It's growing in your policy too. Now, in fact, if you're borrowing directly from an insurance company, you're never stopping the growth of your dollar. It keeps going up every day because you're using the insurance company's money to grow it.
That's right.
So it's like, tell me how hard it is to get a policy loan directly from someone like Equitable, and it would be
Well,
similar to any other one.
speaking specifically about Equitable, I mean, it's an entitlement that you have as a policy owner. So you complete some forms, submit it to the company, and then within a week or two, you've got your funds deposited to you. And I know, I don't want to say, okay, you're going to get it in 2 days, but in most cases, clients are getting it within a week. You need that money right away. It can be done really quickly.
Yeah, and you even like I would say you probably added a bit of margin of safety to what you said there too, because I've done so many of these policy loans for myself and for my clients, and it's literally like it's a page and a half, but it's like you put your policy number, you put your name, you put the amount, you sign it, you put maybe a void check if you haven't put. That's it. Send it in, and if it's under 50K, they're going to direct deposit into your bank account. It's super easy.
Yeah.
If it's over 50K, then it's mail. Then it might take 2 or 3 weeks, but it shouldn't take that long. Like you name me another asset that you have of that, you know, that you may have that much money stored into that you could actually access right away. Name me a fund, name me whatever else you have. It's tough. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I'm sure there are others, but it's just with the attributes that it has here, it's really tough to match. And
Yeah,
that,
100%. And I know we've made, yeah, I know we've made some changes in head office where the client can actually go in to their portal and request that policy loan as well.
yeah, so that technology is definitely coming. So again, like this is not, we're not coming on to give financial advice. We're just trying to add a little bit of
Yeah.
more information out there so people understand that there are other options out there. And this is not to say take all your money and pour it all into life insurance. That's by any means not saying that, but might be a consideration to put a portion of that in there to give you that. Go back to what we started this about, was about building a margin of safety to whatever you're doing. And it's going to guarantee to grow every single day. And the bonus to it is it's actually life insurance. So it's going to pay out to you, pay out to your beneficiaries, could be your family, your business partner, whoever is going to pay out with a massive windfall.
Yeah. And I don't know what else to say about that, but yeah, 100%.
Yeah, let's leave it at that. I mean, we can definitely add on. I'm going to put some more information around that. We can kind of expand on some of the things we went through today, but just kind of wanted to distill a little bit of the just get a good understanding, because I think people just aren't aware that this is something that they can consider to add as a complement to their investment journey.
Yeah, and you know what? It is a complicated product, so that's why you need to speak to a professional advisor, an independent advisor. Make sure you're dealing with the right advisor, like someone just like Peter.
Yeah, whether or not it's myself, there's lots of people who are out there who do have a good understanding of it. So it's always good to talk to, as you said, an individual advisor who will have some of this knowledge and can pass that on to you and see if it's a fit for you, because it may not be the end of the day, but it's definitely something
That's right.
we can take the time to go through. I'm always happy to teach people who want to learn something new. And this is what kind of got me into this industry in the first place. It was like I learned about this much about it, but now I understand about this much more. And there's still there's so much flexibility and options that you can use this for that just is not, the masses just don't know about, other than they think it's a bill that you have to pay and it's going to help the family. But there's so many uses that you can have through it throughout your lifespan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. Well, Sebastian, thank you again for this week, and we'll come up with another topic for next week. We haven't talked about that yet, but we'll glad to have you back on the next round of this.
Perfect. Thanks, Peter.